Hi everyone, hope you're all doing well, and today we'll talk about 4 UK stocks that are cheap, and I don't mean cheap by how much the share price is, so it's like a 10p stock. I mean it's cheap compared to the historic value of a lot of these stocks, and then they've been massively sold off, and a lot of these companies had news that really affected them last week. I'm making this video on Sunday and I think it'll go live on Tuesday, so I'm going to cover some of the news that really affected these companies and go through why I think these are 4 stocks that you might want to pop onto your watch list. I will have bought some stocks this week as well, so if you want to know what they are, go to my Patreons page, guys, and I always post what stocks I'm buying when I'm buying them. But if you don't want to do that, I'll probably be making a video later on the week and I'll talk about which stocks I did buy in earlier on this week. So yeah, if you want to do that, guys, go to the Patreons page. But we'll get stuck into 4 cheap stocks on the UK stock market right now. So number one is one of my favourites, which is Dark Group, which is an airline company, and it got hurt this week or last week because of the new rules that came in that pretty much you had to quarantine for 2 weeks from coming from France, which was one of the kind of untouched destinations that then got added to the list of where you have to quarantine, and it kind of knocked a lot of the airlines down. I know EasyJet was another one that was kind of affected by this, and it is currently trading around about just a high £6 range, and personally I wouldn't buy this until it got under the £6.25 range. But when you do consider, when you look at the stock chart, it was a £18 stock before COVID. You're still talking that the stock's is 2x off them prices where it was pre-COVID. So it's a little opportunity here if you don't have a Dark Group position. I think you have to be wary, because the thing is as well is that if another place does get added to the quarantine list, that's what will send the stock down further. So like I say, if we see Greece added to this list, that'll obviously help it go down, or another country like Greece, it'll help sink the stock price a little bit more. So that could affect the company and the stock, so be wary of that. But any sort of little dips where a lot of countries get added to this ban list is where we'll see a lot of these airline stocks dip in price. Like I say, I think it might be worth seeing if you get one more dip on it, if you already have a position. But if you don't have a position, it's a good entry point anyway to get kind of into Jet2. Now, in my opinion, this is a fantastic company. It has a very cheap P ratio for a company that was paying a decent dividend, and it has a very good history of growing profit, of growing revenue as well. When we look at the company, there's quite a few insiders that have been buying into the company as well. So it's a company with a good history, had a lot of cash going into COVID on that balance sheet. So yeah, it was paying a little bit of a dividend. It had fantastic earnings revenue growth, and I think it's one of those companies that will be totally fine and will carry on growing outside of COVID. So it did have a little bit of a dip, and like I say, it might be one of the last opportunities to get into that group if no other country does get added to the quarantine list. Number 2 was National Express, and I had a few of you guys commenting on the National Express video that I did a few months ago, talking about National Express, and it dipped after its earnings, which were kind of what we expected really. We know a lot of these companies aren't going to post amazing earnings, and this was one of those that didn't. But overall, like, the earnings weren't terrible, like they were okay. Like I say, it's one of those companies that will be down until travel gets kind of back to normal, which probably will be in a year's time really. So one of those that you might have to wait a little bit longer on your share price for. And like I said, I rate this company as a buy. The only reason why I don't actually buy into the company is that I have a lot of like travel and tourism stocks already, so to add another one in won't be great for my portfolio, like diverse in my portfolio. So that's the only reason why. If there was ever a second wave, then obviously this company would get hurt, and I don't want to have too many companies that would be in that position. So and I think like there's the companies that I'm in that's in this industry are a bit better than this one, but nevertheless I still think National Express is not too bad overall. It's got potential to have a lot of growth in travel in like Germany, in US, and like the earnings weren't bad. Like I say, previously the company had done pretty well with profit growth, revenue growth, and going forward it looks like it's going to do pretty well as well. On the balance sheet wasn't terrible. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't terrible. It still had quite a bit of cash and debt going into this, and it used to pay a decent dividend. Obviously it's cut it. I mean, at one point we might see it come back, but I think it's one of those companies that you might wait a little bit longer for them dividends to come back. But yeah, overall, it was a company doing quite well going into COVID, and I'm sure it will get back to some point in the future. And when we talk about the share price as well, you're talking a stock on a big massive discount. Going into COVID, it was a stock in the £4 range, and now you're picking up for the in the £1 range. So it's a massive sell-off on the stock price as well. The only little thing I'm going to say, there has been some insider selling, one of them being the CEO, which is Dean Finch, and the only reason why he's been selling is because he's actually moving company to Persimmon. So there's a new CEO coming in here. That's only one little thing I'd say is, obviously you're getting a new CEO, so there's, that kind of unknown risk coming into the company, but I'm sure that it's very hard for a management to kind of screw up this company in this position, so I'm sure it'll be okay. But yeah, there's a little management change going in there, and that's led to a few shares being sold. That's probably why the stock price hasn't gone up as much as other companies in this kind of sector, is because the CEO has been offloading a lot of shares. In June he offloaded 390,000, August offloaded 300,000, so that's a lot of shares that is offloaded that will probably be keeping the share price down at the moment. And number 3 is Hollywood Bowl, which is a stock that I mentioned on the free UK stocks to buy in August edition, and it had a big massive 18% jump on Friday. That was due to bowling alleys actually being allowed to open back up again, and it was a company doing fantastic going into COVID, massively sold off. It was nearly a £3 stock, and it's nearly half the price right now. It's back at levels that it hasn't been at for years, so it's a massively sold off company. And like I said, management were doing a great job, new venues opening up, and that led to the company actually doing really well on the profit front, also on the revenue front. And like I say, with them opening back up, I think this is probably one of the last times you'll be able to get this company at these sort of prices. So yeah, I think when you look at this company, from here, I think it's going to be okay for this company now. Decent balance sheet going into COVID as well. Had quite a bit of cash to burn through. So yeah, a little bit of a dividend stock as well. You also had millions of insiders buying during the COVID as well, which is also a really positive sign. So Hollywood Bowl, great week last week, and I'm sure it's probably one of the last times it'll be at these sort of prices. And I think it'll probably start recovering from now, as long as there's not another second wave. And last up's Taylor Wimpey, which is kind of like the whole house builder sector's kind of been dead recently. Not much is going on, but Taylor Wimpey is a company that had a strong dividend. The share price going into COVID was around about the £2 range, and now it's dropped all the way down to about the low £1 range. So it's about half the price pre-COVID levels. Isn't affected as much as like other industries, because obviously they're still managing to build through it. Pre-COVID had a company that was growing revenue quite well, growing earnings quite well, so strong on that side of front as well. Financial wise, great balance sheet, 2.8% debt to equity. There wasn't much debt on the balance sheet, only 104 million. Cash was about 600 million, so it's not a company that's going to go bankrupt anytime soon. Was paying a nice dividend before COVID, yeah, I mean the dividend yield was something around like the 8% range, which was insane. And I think that it's one of those companies that probably will end up buying, go back to paying its dividend very soon. A lot of insiders buying on this company in August and June, which is a really positive sign. They bought a lot of land in lockdown to help them outside of lockdown, and yeah, this is one that I am definitely considering adding into very soon. A fantastic company. And overall, I think the house builder sector is quite strong in general. I think there's 4 houses on my estate that have come up for sale through COVID, and all 4 of them have sold in COVID. So I still think the house sector is a lot stronger than what people think it's going to be with a lot of this COVID thing. So I think this is a bit of a bargain right now, still on a discount. So guys, those are 4 cheap UK stocks. I hope you enjoyed the video and got a few stocks to add to your watch list if you haven't got them on your watch list. There will be a few stocks I am buying this week, and I will let you know later on which stocks they were. But thank you for watching the video, guys. If you're new around here, make sure you subscribe. If you can hit that like button, that'd be absolutely amazing. I'll see you in the next video.